The year was 1985. A 30-year-old man walked out of the building he had built himself. The building that had once been a symbol of his dreams. The place where he had spent his days and nights. The place where he had poured his entire life into. But that day, he was no longer the leader there. He was no longer the one in control. He had been pushed aside, ejected from the company he had built with his own hands. Imagine that. Building an empire. Then losing it all at the top. What really happened? And how did the biggest failure of his life become the beginning of a world-changing success?
His name was Steve Jobs. To the world. He was a visionary, an innovator, a man who changed the way people communicate, work, and experience technology. His name is synonymous with the digital revolution. But Steve Jobs' story isn't just about great products. It's not just about billions of dollars. It's not just about the world's most valuable company. It's a story about ambition, about ego, about loss, and about the price paid when one relentlessly pursues perfection. Because sometimes the greatest successes are born from the deepest wounds.
Steve Jobs was born in 1955. From the first day of his life, he felt a sense of loss. He was adopted by another family after birth. Many people consider that just a small part of his past. But for Steve, the feeling of abandonment left a deep mark. He grew up as a bright child, curious about everything, but also stubborn, unruly, often felt different from others. As a teenager, he began to question many things about life, about purpose, about his identity. He searched everywhere for answers, even going on a spiritual journey to India. But the search never truly ended. At a young age, Steve discovered something that gave his life direction: technology. And with a friend named Steve, he began building computers in a small garage. There were no major investors, no fancy buildings, no guarantees of success, just a dream and courage. What happened next seemed like a fairy tale. The small company grew at an incredible rate. Its products began to attract global attention. Money came, popularity came, success came. Before he was 30. Steve Jobs was already a millionaire. Many people thought his life was perfect. But behind the scenes, there was another side that is rarely talked about. Steve was known as a very difficult leader. He demanded perfection. He left no room for error. Many employees feared him. Many admired him. Many couldn't stand working with him. He wanted to change the world. But in the process, he often hurt those around him. Conflicts began to arise in the boardroom, inside the company. Among the top brass, such rapid success created incredible pressure. Steve felt like he was the only one who understood the future. Meanwhile, many around him felt he was too harsh, too extreme, too difficult to work with. Then came a point he never imagined. The people who had supported him started to turn against him. The board of directors lost trust. A power struggle ensued, and finally, Steve Jobs lost. The man who founded the company, forced out. Imagine that feeling. building something from scratch, devoting his entire life, sacrificing time, energy, relationships, and then losing it all in one decision. Years later, Steve admitted that he felt devastated, ashamed, empty, not knowing what to do. For the first time, he felt like a failure in front of the world. The media was talking about it. The tech industry was talking about it. Everyone saw his downfall, but no one truly understood the pain he felt. He lost his company, he lost his identity, and most painfully, he lost his purpose in life.
Many people would give up after experiencing such failure. Steve doesn't. Even though he was injured, he began to rebuild his life. Little by little, he founded a new company called NXT. The company did not immediately become a huge success. In fact, it is often considered a commercial failure. But there is something more important. Steve started to change. He started studying. He began to understand his mistakes. He began to see life from a different perspective. At the same time, he bought a small, virtually unknown animation studio. Many people thought the decision was strange. It made no sense, but that small studio would later become known as Pixar, and the world would never be the same again. For the first time, Steve realized that failure didn't destroy him. It actually shaped him. He lost his company, but he found himself.
Years passed. Ironically, the company that had once ousted Steve Jobs began to run into major problems. They needed a new direction. They needed someone who could see the future. They needed Steve Jobs. And something no one could have imagined finally happened. He returned back to the company that had abandoned him. This time, it was different. He was more mature, more focused, more experienced. Under his leadership, products that changed the world were Born.i, Mac.i, Pod.i, Phone.i, Pad. The company rose. It even became one of the most influential companies in human history. From the outside, it looked like the perfect ending. A man who fell, he rose, and then triumphed, but life is always more complicated than that. In the midst of extraordinary success, Steve faced an enemy he could not control. Disease, pancreatic cancer. Money couldn't stop it. Fame couldn't beat it. Intelligence couldn't negotiate it. In 2011, Steve Jobs died. He was only 56 years old. And as the world remembers his achievements, there's a lesson far greater than mere business success. That life isn't just about building a company. It's not just about getting rich. It's not just about changing the world. It's also about nurturing relationships, maintaining health, and understanding that time is the most valuable resource.
Steve Jobs' story leaves us with an important question. If you were given the chance to be incredibly successful, change the world, create a legacy that will be remembered forever, but it meant losing your cool, facing constant conflict, and sacrificing a large part of your life, would you still choose that path? Leave your answer in the comments, because every success always has a price, and not everyone is willing to pay it. If you enjoy true stories about struggles, failures, and life lessons from world greats, don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and join us on the next journey. Because behind every legend, there's always a dark side that's rarely told.